Hi, thank you everybody for joining in. I'm interviewing Dan and Dylan from the Wholesale Formula today, and this is your opportunity to request any questions that you want to ask them. I'll go ahead and kick it off and let you guys introduce yourselves and maybe tell us a little bit about your backgrounds and how you guys get started.
Sure. Yeah, man. So I got started back in 2011 selling on Amazon. And I got started whenever one of my buddies came in to the place we were working and gave his notice. And he's a really high paid employee. So it was kind of shocking at the time. And whenever he gave his notice, I was like, hey, man, are you like moving or something? Because we're like in a really, really small town and there's not a lot of awesome jobs here. Like, you
Right.
know, so, and he was like, no, man. And he said, honestly, I make more money sitting at home in my underwear selling stuff on Amazon. And I was like, what?
Nice.
And at the time, like I didn't even really know that third-party sellers could sell on Amazon. Like I knew, I knew what Amazon was and all that stuff, but I didn't know third-party sellers were able to sell products on there. And I was like, how does that compare to like eBay? Because in college, I've kind of been like a hustler my whole life. Like in grade school, I traded sports cards. In high school, I traded Magic cards. In college, I was buying and selling video games on eBay, and
Love it.
but like with eBay, I mean, it was great in college when I didn't have a job, but I mean, it's seriously time consuming, man. Like shipping all those orders and answering all those questions, and it's just nonstop. And that's what I asked him. I was like, is it like eBay where you just have to answer all the questions and ship all the stuff? And he was like, no, man, I literally ship it all to Amazon, and then
Wow.
they ship the orders, and they deal with most of the customer service. Like, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. I was like, how fast does stuff sell? And he was like, it's ridiculous. He's like, it's actually faster than eBay. No way. So he went out and he showed me, and this is where we started retail arbitrage. And it was fascinating. Like I was just blown away by the opportunity that existed. And as soon as he showed us and we really got started, it was nonstop. I mean, like when I got off work, I would literally go and just start shopping, and on the weekends go shopping. And if I wasn't doing that, I was like trying to pack or ship stuff off to Amazon. And
Nice.
it was it was going really well too. Like we started with a $600 credit card. Like, I was in an awkward situation whenever I
Hmm.
got started because I had a pretty good pay, a strong paying job. But when I was growing up, my mom just got destroyed with credit cards. Like just she ravaged by credit card debt, and I was terrified of credit. Like I didn't
Sure.
use credit at all. Um, so I didn't have a ton of money, and I also didn't have credit. Like I bought, when I moved into my house, I bought my house, I bought my car, I paid my wife's student loans off, so we wouldn't owe any money. Um, and but my first credit card was a $600 credit card, and I got it at the airport. It was one of those little American Express, the little gold ones.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and so we rocked out for like the next 5 months. And in December, it was crazy because like we would max out our credit card, pay it off, go out and shop more, max out our credit card, and they eventually started raising our limit up because we were doing it multiple times a month.
Sure.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
uh so they raised our limit, and in December we did $50,000 in sales. And it was,
Wow.
to me, it was just unbelievable that you could start with a $600 credit card and grow all the way up to 50K in sales with good margins too, which was crazy. But it was quarter four. I mean, in quarter four it gets pretty wild.
Sure. Q4. Yeah. So you guys were able to scale up and leverage that credit card and keep paying it off and put those profits back into the business each and every month, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean that's how we did it. And then something really unfortunate happened in December. I got fired about 4 days before Christmas.
Oh,
And
geez.
I had my daughter. Like, she was 1 years old, and like I said, I didn't have a ton of money. And right before that had happened, like I had just replaced the roof on my house, and I had just replaced my HVAC. So I got fired, and I had $4,200 in my bank account.
Oh,
And when I went to I'd rented this little tiny office. It's like a 250 square foot, almost like a closet. And that's where we were, packing and shipping all those orders, because my wife would have been furious if I'd have just been doing that in my house. So
yeah.
that's where our little operation was taking place. So I went down there and I was like trying to think, and I started crying. I just cried for hours,
Oh,
and
geez.
I was trying to figure out, what in the world am I going to tell my wife, right? Like,
Yeah.
So I decided that I would tell her that I quit my job. And that sounds insane when you say it. It's like, why wouldn't you just tell her you got fired? And but in our situation, I was definitely the breadwinner of the family, and the primary thing is I just didn't want her to be terrified. Like, um, and it made it almost seem like I had control of the conversation. At least that's kind of what I thought. And I was super ashamed. Like, I was super ashamed, that I got fired.
Right.
And so I went home and I told her that I was like, hey, something really exciting happened today. And, you know, I quit my job. I'm really just ready to move forward with this Amazon thing. And I was like trying to smile and, like all the stuff. And she just started crying. And she said, go get your job back. Like, what are you doing? You have a family to support, man.
Sure.
And,
Yeah.
well, little did she know that wasn't an option. Like, there was no chance I was getting the job back. And I was like, no, we're fine. Like, I'm really going to.
That's not happening.
Yeah. But so it's one of those things. Like, at the time, I thought my world ended, and
Right.
but I think it's kind of like times like that that really really test you, right? It puts your feet to the fire. So like over the next year, I mean, it was crazy. Like, I was probably working 60 to 80-hour weeks every single week.
You were all in.
All in, and it was not only to replace my income, but just to prove I could do it, right? Like,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
make my wife feel like it was. I wanted her to believe it. I still had not told her that I'd been fired. Like,
It took years.
it actually I mentioned on a webinar before I told her.
No way. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
that would have been an interesting one to be a fly on the wall for.
Yeah.
But I guess it worked out quite well for you guys.
Right.
He's so lucky that he got fired, honestly. He didn't know it
Yeah,
then.
no kidding. Yeah, but it turned out to be
we finished that year strong,
positive.
and then the next year we same bat time, same bat channel. We just like actually went harder because it was like we want to make more money and try to really set ourselves up well. And despite all the extra work, like we worked harder, and despite all that extra work, we made like an extra $80,000 or $90,000 in sales. So it's like you kill
That's
yourself.
Incredible.
But
you guys were doing like arbitrage at that point. You hadn't even moved into the wholesale at this stage yet.
Yeah. And that year was $940K in sales, but it was like that. It was that year that in Thanksgiving where it really hit me. And this was the second year in a row. Like the previous year, I was so excited when we went out on Thanksgiving, but Black Friday, because that's when deals happen. That's when we're going to make a whole bunch of money.
Oh yeah.
And it was the second year that it really hit me, and it was I get up, my little girl sitting there, and I was like, man, I can't even. I'm not eating dinner with my 2-year-old daughter now. Like, instead I have to go work, and to me that was just absolutely crushing. Walking away, and it's one of those things. Every time you do that, and it doesn't matter if it's a job or if it's your business or whatever it is, some sort of obligation. Those are the moments you never ever ever get back. Like, I'm never going to be able to have that dinner with her again.
Yeah.
And
it was like a constant hustle taking up all your time at this phase. It was like a job you created for yourself, right?
Right. It didn't feel like a business at all. I mean, it felt like just an obligation where if I stopped, my income went down. Totally. And so.
I mean, I can relate because I started out doing arbitrage myself back in 2014, and I hear you. It was one of those things where I did quite well with it, and then I realized, I need to look at something else, and I kind of got into wholesale, similar to you guys, I think, in some ways there as well. So,
well, we fumbled our way into it a little bit. Like it was, we knew we had to make a change. We knew that it wasn't sustainable to keep working like that. And, at that point, I didn't even feel like I owned a real business. I just felt like I had a really good job that was really demanding.
Totally.
And, we set out to do it and change models. So like we started with a retail store, and that failed. We tried an online website that sold My Little Pony collectibles, and that failed. And then we started with private label, and it's crazy because like our first product had pretty good success. And, it almost felt like we kind of hit our stride right there with that first product.
Yeah.
And then we launched a second product, and it failed. And it was like, the problem was I couldn't tell you why. Like, you know, and that's the frustrating part is that's how I knew
tough.
that we weren't ready for it is, you know, to me, it looked like we'd done everything right. It looked like we'd done the exact same process. It looked like, you know, the same market situation, and it just failed and flopped. And then on our first product, eventually the people who were good at this, like, you know, what did we do? It wasn't that we were good at private label with that first product. We just picked a good product. And, you know, eventually what happened was the competition showed up and just ate that one alive. And, you know, we were getting out marketed. They knew how to build better listings. They knew how to build, run ads. They knew all the things that we didn't. And so we knew our home wasn't going to be in private label. Like, we couldn't compete with the people. Like, they were just better than us at the time. And it was going to, you know, we couldn't afford it, to be honest with you.
I hear that a lot with people selling private label now. You know, they fall in love with a single product, maybe they do well for a while, and then, like you said, the competition comes in, boom, you know, what's next, right? And that's one of the things I like about the wholesale model. You're not limited to that one product, you know. I think
you're so all in on it, you know, and even if it's like, it's not just the money. Let's say that you know, you have a month's worth or four. Well, you got to go deeper with private label where the shipping's a little inconsistent. But like, let's say you bought 3 months worth of inventory, which is not outlandish. Like, you know, it's not just the 3 months of inventory that's at risk in private label. It's all the time you spent and all the money you spent building that listing. Like, when they catch up, and if they do, like, you know, in my instance, if they catch up and they overtake you, you lost every bit of the investment into that. And and you know, that's how we knew it wasn't for us. And we started with wholesale, and we started fumbling around by Googling wholesale, and you know, we kind of figured that you were supposed to look at distributors and the wholesalers, and that's what we did. And then, you know, this was, you know, 2015. Like, you know, they sent us these gigantic catalogs, either digitally or whatever. You know, there was no tactical arbitrage. Like, there wasn't anything to feed it through, and it was just you look it up, you copy and paste, and you wait for the page to load, and it's good or it's not. And it took forever to start going through these things. And I remember, like, you'd be like 400 lines in, you know, 4 hours into this stupid thing, and you'd finally find a product, and you'd make like 48 cents. And it's like, jeez, come on, you know, what am I doing all day? And that was like, oh, maybe the answer is like going to shows. And, you know, maybe that is the answer for some people, like, but it was not the answer for us. Like, we went to ASD.
Biggest trade show in North America.
Right. Like, you know, that's a big
I went to that one myself back in 2015. Yeah. That's huge. Like 3 million square feet or something like that. Or
it's insane. Like, and it's kind of funny that you say 3 million square feet. It's like, you know what I ended up with when I left ASD? A bad product and sore feet. Like, you know,
I love that.
It was crazy though. I mean, like, you know, we were walking around all day long looking for these products, and
we walked every one of the 3 million square feet,
all of them, and we would go up and scan items, and then we would have that, like, because I'm not like an extroverted guy, like, and I don't like that, and I wasn't comfortable in what I was doing. Like, you know, hell, I'd been doing wholesale for about 40 days, like, so I mean, it wasn't like I felt like I knew what I was doing. I didn't have you know, any mentorship. Like, there was nothing. It was literally just kind of fumbling around in the dark and finding my way. So, like, whenever they started to have conversations with me, it's like, we were so bad at it and awkward. And then, you know, the reality kind of set in on that last day, and it was like, God, we paid, you know, probably $2,000 to be here. It was hotel rooms and flights and dinners and, you know, all the stuff that you have to do to travel. And it was like, well, we better take advantage of it. So we went, and it was like, we're going to place an order today. Like, that's what we're going to do. So, you know, walking around the show, finally find something that looks all right. And it's like, well, at least order this thing and we'll pay for our trip maybe. And that's what I said. Like, you know, when it was all said and done, all we had was a bad product and sore feet. Like, by the time I got home, this product was already losing money. And it's just like, gosh, like, how does anybody ever make money with this? Like, seriously, I'm beyond just confused on how people actually make money. And that was the point where it's like just super, super dejecting, right? Like, I pretty much felt like the only way that we were smart enough to make money was to drive around in a van and pick stuff up. And it's just like, everything else seems to fail. Like, and it's just run into the wall. And it's not just
kind of like sticking to what you know kind of thing a little bit, right?
Right. And I know that, you know, and you know, looking at people's situations, and we talk to lots of entrepreneurs nowadays, and I know how easy it is to fall in that trap of doing what you're comfortable with, because it's so scary and it's so frustrating to not know what you're doing or not be confident that you can do it. And at the time, that's what I was running into. And I remember it just felt like we were losing all the time. And it wasn't just the money, it was just time and like effort. And it's that energy, right? It's just like you just sucked right down to the bottom. And there was like this one pivotal moment. And I think that happens. Like if you stay invested in a business, it's never easy. Like you always see that. I've seen that picture, and there's nothing that's more true. And it's just like, you see the graph and everybody thinks it's like this. Like, everybody from the outside looks at our business and they say like, it's just easy for those guys. They don't see like the crazy zigzag lines of just despair and frustration. And
totally.
By the time is that, and it's like you get those one little breakthrough, and it's the thing that saves you. And it was this, it's just one thing that brought, and it wasn't this, it was just a product sitting on my desk. And I was like, why can't I carry this thing? Like, why do I have to call 500 distributors and find out who might have it and what price they might be selling it for? Why can't I just find that product and sell it? It would be so much easier. And it was like, well, I'm going to call the company. I'm going to see, like, maybe they'll be able to tell us. So we call, and it's like, hey, could you, I'm a retailer. I'd love to carry your product. Can you tell me which distributors carry it? And they were like, well, I mean, I could, but I could also just set you up with an account and sell direct to you. And I was like,
you can?
What? Like, what? Like, I've literally been absolutely ramming my head straight into a wall for the last several months. And it was this easy, right? And it's so I was like, yeah. And then it's like the next dread, right? And it's just, you hear all these stories about, big giant minimum orders. And it's like, well, that's the next one. This is going to be so frustrating. And I was like, all right, can you guys tell me what your minimum order is? And it was $250. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a game changer. Man, our model became, as soon as I hung up the phone, it was, I'm going to call as many people as I can humanly call. Like, that's it. I'm just going to call. I'm going to set up accounts. I'm going to get price lists. And it was that little breath of fresh air that I needed. Like, and luckily, that account was profitable. Like, they set that price list and it looked good. And it was just like that lift I needed, right? And then it was just reinvigorated. I'm back on it. I figured it out. I beat the system. And, the next 30 people I call all didn't want Amazon sellers. They were like, we're not selling to Amazon sellers right now, or, we already have enough Amazon sellers, or we're not looking to add any people on Amazon right now. And it's just like, gosh. And that was annoying because I don't know why they're saying no. And to me, it sounds insane. I'm just thinking, I literally want to hand you money. If I walked up to somebody on the street and I hand them money, they will take it every time. Why won't you take it? That was how I was, my mindset. And there was this one brand, and it is just, after just failure. And it was like, I reached this, again, it's just that breath, right? This breath of air. And there was this one product specifically where I was using it as a supplement, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I knew the product really well. And I'd send them an email, just mostly being a fanboy. Like, I wanted to carry the product and make money with it, but really and truly, like, I just wanted to be associated with it because it's an awesome product. Yeah. And then, like, I would get my stuff, I would get it like on, at wholesale cost too. And I was definitely using it. So it was really exciting account for me. And I reach out and they give me the dreaded email back. And it was, we're not selling to any Amazon sellers right now. And I was like, well, God, I'm going to call them. Like, I'm just going to call this one. And this was the first time I'd done it. Like, if they told me no, I was like, all right, thank you. And, and just move to the next. And it's always like you keep telling yourself, like, it's that no's just getting to the next yes or whatever, And
what you're experiencing, I hear that so many times from people, like, why don't you want to deal with Amazon sellers? People haven't really, at that early stage, figured out the whole, which you guys teach, adding value and showing your value. And, we don't always understand that they have obligations to their brick and mortar suppliers or map pricing that they're afraid that's not going to get honored and all that sort of stuff, right?
Absolutely. And this one was the game changer. And this one was the one that changed our business, really changed our life, changed our business, and was kind of like the beginning of creation of the wholesale formula. I decided that brand, I wasn't just going to take no. I wasn't just going to let them tell me no, because I did think I could help them. I felt like I brought an awesome perspective to their product. So I call and the guy answers the phone and I was like, hey, I'd reached out to you guys in an email and asked if, asked about carrying your product. And you said you guys weren't taking any other Amazon sellers. And the guy was like, and I'm in it. And it's just like, wow, that was brutal, and nowadays I kind of get it. I kind of get like where he's coming from and how his level of frustration. I was like, no, I definitely understand, man. I'm sure you get these calls and emails all the time. And he was like, oh yeah. And he was like, and it's senseless. He's like, we're working with the two of the biggest sellers on Amazon. I literally have no idea what you could possibly do to help me. What, and I was like, maybe I can't, but can I have just 1 minute of your time? I was like, first off, I love your product. I actually use it. And I just want you to check out something on your page. And if there is something wrong, you can talk to them about it maybe, and they can get it fixed for you. And I was like, he's like, absolutely, man. He was willing to entertain me at that point. So he went to his page on Amazon and he didn't know what he was looking at. He was like, okay, I'm here. And I was like, all right, can you bring up another tab and open this page? And it was a competitive product. And I was like, I don't know if you've heard of these guys. And he was like, well, of course we've heard of them. It's one of our competitors. And I was like, all right. And so he gets to their page. And the first thing he said when it opened was, wow. And I was like, so in the real world, outside of Amazon, how do you guys perform against these guys? And he was like, we crush them. And I was like, all right, scroll down to this thing called bestseller rank. And I explained where it is. And then I was like, okay, so let's look at this. Right now, this product is outselling you 3-1 on Amazon, and it's picking up tons and tons of new customers. And, why do you think that is? And he was like, well, God, their listing's a lot better. Like, he knew it. I mean, it wasn't a question. It wasn't one of those things where I had to point it out. It was obviously better.
It just stood out. Yeah.
And I was like, when you asked me earlier, what can I do for you that those guys can? I can't do anything that they can't, but I can do something they haven't. And, if you're willing to work with me, I'll just go ahead and tell you, man, I'm working with one other person right now. Like, we're working with one other account and it's going well, but you'll be my second. But I can absolutely promise you that your product will be featured better than it is now. And you'll never have to worry about it being not up to date again. And it's like, those guys can do it. You can call them, I'm sure you can hang up the phone right now. You can call them, you can tell them, they'll do it. But just keep in mind, every time something changes, you're going to have to remember to call them. But if you work with me, you won't. And he was like, man, I would love to work with you. And that's how we got an account. And that was the pivotal change for us. And it was like, wow, I can't woo these people with money, but if I'm willing to step 1 inch farther than the other person, I can pick up accounts, and it's through value, right? It's like, I can actually help them in another way that other people aren't willing to. And it's like, and it's still true to this day. It's crazy because, like, you go on Amazon, you see all these crazy unoptimized listings. And it's just like, that's how I just know there's so much opportunity that still exists. Like, people don't go that extra mile for the brands they work with. Like, we are certainly a minority, and it's just, it's mind-boggling the effects that it's had on our business. And it was that moment right there that I'm confident was the life changer for me.
And that's the moment everything changed for our business. So from the day that happened, where he had that conversation and realized that's what it's about. That's how I get wholesale accounts, brand direct wholesale accounts, is adding value and convincing the brand that I can add value, that I'm a top level, I'm a premium Amazon seller, Amazon retailer.
I mean, I didn't have to be premium. I just had to be willing to do the work.
Right. In some cases, you don't have to know much at all. And we can talk a little about that. And so from that moment where Dan had that call, a year later, just 365 days later, our sales had tripled. From how much? So from how many accounts we were now able to get from the knowledge that we had built, we went from about $1 million in sales, about 1.2 million to about 3.5 million, 3.6 million. So it was almost like a straight triple in sales in a single year. But not only did our sales triple, and then the year after that, it was about as close to 6 million. So it was almost, and then from there it almost doubled, and you're really cooking with gas at that point. So
you guys had honed the strategy at this point, huh?
Right, and it wasn't just our revenue had went up. Everything was better because that business model, that reverse sourcing wholesale business model, is extremely scalable. You can outsource it, you can automate, you can delegate so many of the components of the business. And I don't know that that's necessarily, I don't know that we knew at the time.
We didn't know how. I mean, I can say I didn't. I definitely didn't know how scalable it was. But
yeah.
I knew how powerful it was.
Yeah.
And
could you guys talk a little bit about that reverse wholesale model? I mean, I'm quite familiar with it, and I'm sure a few people on the seminar are as well. But that's a really cool strategy. When I first learned about that, where I guess you go to Amazon first and find brand owners.
Yeah. We developed. It's a simple mathematical formula that we teach in the workshop, our free workshop that you can check out right now. And basically we go to Amazon and find successful products that are already successful, and then we reach out to the brand owner directly to be able to open that wholesale account, just like Dan was explaining. And they'll usually say no, or there'll be resistance, and we convince them why that we're a valuable partner for them, a valuable retail partner. And then we have that wholesale account, and we're buying direct. Because we're buying direct, we're buying at the best possible price. There's no middlemen wholesalers or distributors that you're buying through that need to get their cut out of it too. You're at the top of the supply chain. You're able to get the best possible price, which makes it harder for people to compete with you on Amazon, which means you get a higher quantity of sales, and you make more profit because you got the best possible price. So it's been fantastic. The things that are really amazing about it is, like, let's compare it to arbitrage, right? You compare it to arbitrage is much harder to scale, because to be able to find products, you have to actually physically go somewhere. You have to physically go to a store. You have to buy the product at the store. You have to drive around, right? So your first opportunity to scale, you have to take it to your house and prep it yourself. Prepping products yourself is a $9 or $10 an hour job, right? It's a very low paying job. If you were to hire someone to prep products for you, that's what you would pay them, something in that. So anytime you're doing it yourself, that's what you're paying yourself effectively to do that kind of work. It's so let's look at it from the way our wholesale business runs, right? Well, in terms of product prep, when we order products wholesale, there's half the time, greater than half the time, there is no prep that's done. When we order from a brand, they can ship it direct to Amazon, so I don't even have to do it. The other half
That's beautiful.
of it the other half of the time, there's additional prep that may need to happen. It can go to a third-party prep center. They can ship it there, and they'll do the product prep. So it never has to come to me. We never have to physically do it. So it was able to basically eliminate that part out of the business immediately, scale, automate it, and save you buyback literally like 20, 30 hours a week in time immediately.
Thousands of hours a year.
And it sounds like an ideal model for Canadians and people outside of the U.S. If you have a prep company in the U.S. or a manufacturer in the U.S., you can operate anywhere in the world, and they'll take care of that. Send it to Amazon, do the prep work for you.
Absolutely. And so the other component to this,
I mean, we haven't touched a product that we sell in almost 2 years.
Love it. Nice. Yeah. Because you guys got rid of your warehouse a little while ago too.
Yeah.
Right?
We had a warehouse from, because when we started selling, that was bbefore there were prep centers. So we just had one, and we closed it in favor of a prep center because that was so much more efficient.
Totally.
And so it was amazing. And then the other thing about how you can scale this business model is all the other work is pretty binary work. What I mean by binary is that it can be taught to someone else that can do it for you. So again, like, think about retail arbitrage. If you need someone to buy product for you, you have to pay a human being to actually go out and shop for you, and that's not going to be particularly cheap. Whatever the cheapest it could be in America is $7, about $7.50 an hour, because that's the minimum wage. It's as cheap as it could be. Our first employees in our wholesale business were virtual assistants from the Philippines. Workers from the Philippines. English is an official language in the Philippines, so there's not a language barrier, and they can work remotely. And the minimum wage in the Philippines is about $1 an hour USD. It's something somewhere in there. But we pay
with the time difference. They can be working while you're sleeping, kind of thing, right?
Exactly. So we paid triple the minimum wage. We paid $3 an hour and got a great employee that was able to find products for us, use our system, our formula to find products, able to research companies, their contact information, able to send our email templates out, able to help manage our Seller Central account. So it's much cheaper. Like, just think about that in any business. Imagine if you were able to hire full-time help that is a quality person at $3 an hour. You can do that with our wholesale model. It's wild to think about. And so what happened was, over the next couple of years, we went from working like 60 hours a week to working like 6 hours a week, to now to the point where we work and some weeks it's 1 hour, some weeks it's 5 hours,
Wow.
and that's about the maximum it'll be on the Amazon business, because now we have a couple of virtual assistants that help run our business, and then we hired 2 domestic employees. Eventually scaled to the point where we could hire domestic employees, a couple domestic employees, and they completely run the business. And now Dan and I are like a board of instead of CEOs, we're just like a board of directors now. We have we have a meeting every week, and just give vision and ideas and what we want to see, and then that's
you're focused on the business, the big picture, driving the business forward and the opportunities, right? And one of the things that really impressed me when I went through your course is you have so much detail on how to document your operating procedures and how to basically check each box, so you can take that and train people. So you guys teach all that in the course, right? That's part of the course. I mean, that could be a course in and of itself, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we've been able, like, we've started to figure all this out. We've done $25 million in sales now.
Wow,
since,
that's incredible.
Over the years, and actually know how to run a business now.
Right. It feels like a business. That's the biggest difference is,
And you know what really impressed me with you guys is your numbers are amazing, but the combined sales of your students, the results your students that have taken the course that you surveyed, I believe it was $500 million.
That was in 2017, like when we ran that survey.
Yeah, that was in 20. I assume it's over $1
billion
billion
with a B. That's incredible.
Yeah, wow. I assume it's over $1 billion now. We haven't resurveyed, but that was in 2017. Yeah, there was 421 of our students at the time responded to that survey, just 421. And those 421 had combined to do just over $500 million in sales lifetime. That was $1.2 million per person that responded to the survey. And it's not like we have a lot of students like that. At the time that we ran that survey, we might have had 2,000. Like, I don't even think it was 2,000 students. We probably had 1,600 total people in our program
that had ever taken our course,
and got 421. Yeah, because like how many people just didn't open that email?
Growth. Oh yeah, totally. And Amazon's growth, it's like every year it goes at like 20% or more a year. And people say, oh, maybe it's too late for the opportunity now. But with that amount of growth, I still don't think there's enough sellers on the platform to fulfill the need, and certainly not sellers that are doing what you guys teach, other than just listing stuff.
So when we started, Amazon that year did like $35 billion in sales. In 2019, Amazon did $285 billion.
I mean, it's almost literally like 8x.
And they're it's crazy. And they're projected to like 2024, 2025, they'll probably be doing like close to $500 billion. That's a weird number to say too. I'm not very used to saying trillion.
Yeah, that's
but
like
we're
the
getting
GDP
there.
of a country.
So Amazon passed Portugal in GDP. Portugal, the entire European country's GDP, they passed it up. They do more. Amazon sales does more than Portugal, does more than I think Greece now.
Wow.
I think more like just like real first world countries. Amazon generates more, but actually we say Amazon generates. That's not necessarily the case. People like Dan and me, right? We are responsible for those sales. That's totally. Amazon's $285 billion. It's actually a very large portion of that
53%
comes from us.
I think was the statistic I read.
Yeah,
it was 51 and 53.
Small and medium-sized business owners that are succeeding. And as a Canadian, one of the things that really excites me is Amazon Canada. It's a tiny fraction of the size of Amazon.com, but it's growing in leaps and bounds. And there's even less people doing what you guys teach here in Canada. So for Canadians taking your course, if they apply what you guys are teaching in Canada, it's, I don't want to say untapped, but almost untapped opportunity here too.
Yeah. And
I think, I mean, honestly, the international folks, like I really do think have a bit of an advantage. Like in that regard, they're more familiar with their home countries and particularly the marketplaces, and they're able to apply that there. So like whenever, imagine a Canadian is approaching a US based business and they're, that business says, well, we're not looking to work with other Amazon sellers. And it's like, well, I first off, I want to work with you, and here's why. And you talk to them about, the values you can apply. And then it's like, and something else I can really help you with is I'd love to carry your product on, Amazon.com, but also I would love to do it on .ca and really improve your presence there. And that's something that you guys can easily do.
Totally. I've experienced that myself. I've had people shut me down when I first approached wholesale. I mentioned I'm Canadian, and can you help us grow in the Canadian market, right?
Yep.
The conversation changed, so bringing cross-border opportunities to companies that, they've got a great product, but they don't want the hassle of dealing with the border. There's an opportunity there for people in Canada or wherever they might be, right?
Our biggest wholesale account is a Canadian company.
Yep.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yep. Our biggest wholesale account. Yep. Absolutely. Not even close, too. It's our biggest account. It's not close.
Yep.
And that doesn't surprise me, because I've done the same thing. And I find sometimes with the Canadian dollar versus the US dollar, they don't raise prices as quickly here. So with the exchange rate, you can often buy products in Canada, for example, at a lower price point than you can get in the US just on that exchange, especially if you're getting into volume. So exciting cross-border opportunities, which is just another avenue. And then, of course, if you're selling on .com, you can enable it so you can ship to the entire world, including Canada, right? So,
yeah, and I assume there's also, like, if I were Canadian too, I would leverage trying to scout period, not only, but just like I would have periods of time where I would try to exclusively scout Canadian companies, because I would think there's a possibility, that are successful selling in the U.S. as well, because they may be more likely or want to do business more often with other Canadians too, and be able to support them, even though you would be selling their products in the United States. And there's copy and strategies that can come up with contact about that as well, things of that nature. So, I mean, there's a huge advantage, and it's easy for Canadians. Of all the countries, it's easiest for Canadians to get set up to sell in the U.S. very quickly, very easily. And I just posted it in the chat too. So in the chat, our accountant, the accountant that we use, the accounting firm that we use in our business, they are very well rehearsed in Amazon sales, which is hard to find. And they can help any Canadians if they want to get set up to sell in the United States. If you follow that link and reach out to them, they can get you completely set up and ready to sell in the U.S.
It's super affordable. I think they charge, like, if I'm not mistaken, it's maybe $250.
Yeah,
like,
it's really
set
cheap.
up.
Get you an American business. Yeah.
That's a real need. I get asked all the time, like, who do you recommend for an accountant, as a Canadian doing business in the US? So, I mean, that's fantastic, guys. I really appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah.
And as far as brands go, do you guys find that you tend to focus more on the small to medium sized brands as opposed to the big brands like the Colgates of the world kind of thing?
There's a success strategy. It's crazy why. Like, there's a few reasons, but the primary reason, let's say with Colgate, we'll use them as the example, right? It's like, if I start talking to Colgate about improving their listing and how it's going to make them, let's say it makes them an extra $75,000 that year. Colgate could literally care less about $75,000. That's not that. Yeah.
It's a rounding error for them.
Right. Like, that's not what they're looking to do. So it's like my values just don't align as well. And then there's other issues.
Sure.
Like their supply chains are far harder to manage. Like, Colgate, Colgate, you can buy Colgate from pretty much any distributor that sells toothpaste in the world, which makes it much harder to manage online, particularly, and a lot of the larger brands deal with Amazon. And whenever Amazon deals with a company, we avoid products that Amazon deals with. And most people will ask, like, do you just not feel like you compete? And it's like, I don't care to compete. Like, maybe I can, maybe I can't, but I don't care to. And there's tons of opportunity outside of those products. But whenever Amazon's on a listing, number one, they are aggressive. Like they will cut your margin. Like, even if you can win, I promise you they'll make you win. They'll make you win the least. And then beyond that, like, whenever Amazon retail's on a listing, Amazon retail controls the listing, and it's very hard to make changes. So if I'm working with a brand, I realize, like, a lot of courses teach you just go apply to a bazillion people and you'll get all these people that say yes. And it's like, I like the yeses too. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, our mojo is overcoming the objection, right? I love the brands that tell me no. And it's just so hard to defend those products whenever they're just distributed in that manner, right? It's like, you're never, ever, ever going to gain ground. I'm never going to be able to offer real value. I'm never going to be able to do anything of substance to be able to grow this relationship. It's literally transactional. And my value in it is only the amount of money I spend.
Yeah. And
so these small, go ahead.
Yeah, the small companies and small brands. So we've done $25 million in sales. There's almost no chance that anyone watching right now will have ever heard of any of the brands that we sell. There's one brand we used to sell that people may have heard of. It's like reasonably popular. And that's literally it. Only one that I can ever think of that would be.
Which one was reasonably popular?
The athletic tape.
Oh yeah, that was pretty popular. Mueller.
Mueller athletic tape.
I was going to say too. Do you guys find? I found in my own Amazon business sometimes the most obscure products can be the ones that really do well.
Yeah,
have you guys come across that?
Yeah, that's the thing. So like you talk about toothpaste, right? Colgate, right? We would never sell a brand like Colgate, a Procter and Gamble, probably multinational, multi-billion-dollar company. We would sell we would sell a toothpaste that's made from like ground up tree bark or something crazy like that, right? And the company
ground up glass.
And the company
may only niche for that. Somewhat,
right. And their company may only have like 7 employees, and their total revenue for their whole company is just like $4 million a year. But their product will be selling on Amazon 300 times a month, right? And that's great for me, right? And so like that's the kind of wheelhouse that we have. And there are hundreds of thousands of products and brands that are just like that. These small to medium-sized companies that have products that are good on Amazon, and that we can really help and meet all kinds of different needs. So that's what we focus on. And there's just so much opportunity with things like that. It's insane.
And your training, it goes into the details of how to approach those brand owners. Even if someone's got no experience and hasn't approached a brand owner before, I think you've got various ways they can go about doing that. And not that you want to copy a script, but it gives someone a baseline, right? They can look at that script and they can decide to put it in their own words and follow a proven strategy that's obviously worked for you guys and your students in the past.
Yeah, and you don't even need experience. That's the thing. Is like everyone has to get started somewhere, right? So I have a great story for that. Like everyone gets their first wholesale account somehow. You heard the story about how Dan got his, and it's all about that. So there's a particular student of ours who's had a lot of success. Her name's Cheryl Brightman. So she enrolled in the wholesale formula and couldn't break through. Like she was really struggling with confidence issues. It took this is months. She's been trying for months and she's failing at it. She's calling brands and they're saying that they don't want to work with any Amazon sellers, and she's just like, it comes to Dan. Dan's in Vegas at the time,
at ASD,
not actually walking the floor, but he's just there to hang out with other people that he knows and friends and things like that. So he invites students of the wholesale formula to come hang out with him and eat dinner with him. And she comes. She's from the Vegas area. Yeah. And she tells Dan, and she's like crying. Well, she was crying, right? She was crying, saying, because she had lost her job. And this was it. This was how she was going to try to get back up on her feet. She was having to move back in with her mother in her 40s. Which was, really embarrassing for her and tough for her. And she's crying to Dan, I'm calling these companies and I don't know how I can help them. I don't know how, they don't want to work.
I don't know how to do any of this stuff.
I don't know how to do any of this stuff. I don't know how to help them. I feel like a fraud. And you tell her that's bullshit. But
and I was like, well, that's complete bullshit. Like, do you trust yourself to try to solve the problem, right? And it's I tell her, like, when I'm on the phone with somebody, like I can talk to one of these brands and just tell them like, hey, I'll get this done for you. And I'm not telling them I'll do it or I know how to do it, but I promise you, if I tell that first brand I talked to, I didn't know how to take great pictures. I didn't know how to write a great listing, but guess what? I learned real fast, and it was because I wanted to get it done and I wanted to deliver value. And that's what I told Cheryl right there is like, it's not an Amazon knowledge problem. It's a confidence problem.
Yeah. And sometimes you just got to reframe it. Let's say a brand, anyone that's listening right now, let's say you got a phone call tomorrow and there was a brand, it was an Amazon company, a brand, and they called you and they said, hey, could you make our Amazon listing look better? I'll pay you $30,000 to do it. Would you just answer that call and just be like, no, I just can't help you? Or would you just be like, I'll figure this out. Yes. Could you figure that out? Could you figure out how to make someone's Amazon listing better for $30,000 a year? Because that's what a wholesale account can be. So let me get back to Cheryl. She takes that to heart what Dan told her, gets motivated. I don't know if it's the next company that she calls, but it's one of the next. It was
really soon after.
It's just a matter of days after. The next company one of the next companies she calls, she is now more, she takes Dan's advice to heart, and she is asking them questions, and she is asking them, what problems is your company, instead of trying to pitch to the company and trying to tell them what she would do for them. She's asking, what's going on? What could you need help with? What could our company possibly help you with? And they're like, yeah, actually, our best-selling product is listed as hazmat on Amazon right now, and which means it can't be sold FBA, which is a big thing. You're not getting your 2-day shipping on your product is a big deal. It hurts your sales significantly. Our product is listed as a hazmat product, meaning it's dangerous materials, but our product definitely isn't. It has nothing to do with dangerous materials. This is an error, and we've been trying to fix it and don't have any idea how to get a hold of someone at Amazon to get them to change that so it can be sold to FBA again. And of course, she has no idea how to do it, but she says, you know what? Okay, great. This is my opportunity. I'll solve this problem for you. I'll reach back out to you in a couple days. So she goes on Google, random forums, Facebook groups, calls Amazon, researches Amazon's website to figure out what does she need? What are the steps that she needs to take? What is the documentation she needs to send to Amazon? How does she need to do it to get that product changed from hazmat back to a standard product so it can be sold FBA? Well, she figures it out. She gets the company to fill out the documentation. She submits it for them, and bam, they're able to get back selling FBA again. Their product listed FBA again, and they're super happy. Their sales just skyrocket now that it can be sold FBA again. And they reward her with the exclusive selling rights to that product on Amazon, which she still has to this day. And this product, this brand generates like $250,000 profit per year. Profit.
Unbelievable profit. Wow. So from unemployed to $250,000 profit per year, and that's just one.
And product. She's got a lot more accounts now.
That was like her first real wholesale account, and that's what happened. And she was at that moment of just like giving up and going back and getting a regular job kind of thing, And that was the breakthrough of just like, I can help them. I can figure it out. They told me what their problem was. I'm going to go back, figure it out, come back to them, solve it. And that's what happened. She's been able to, and that's $250,000 a year, folks, because she's kept that brand, that product, that exclusivity. She works with that brand. They love her to death. They're based in Thailand. They fly her to Thailand. She gets like free vacations to Thailand, like to go and hang out and tour their facilities, and then get to stay at some nice hotels over there. It's crazy. And that's what's absolutely possible. And she's been able to scale and grow her business since then. That's what you could do. And that's what it comes down to. You don't have to have any knowledge. You don't have to know. You just have to understand if you can be resourceful and figure stuff out after the fact, you can have a hugely profitable business.
And that was one of the cool things in your training I saw was what you call the value propositions, which shows people how they can add that value to a brand owner. And I guess once you've done this once or twice, it's a rinse and repeat, and you can continue to approach brands. Each situation, of course, is going to be unique, but the things that you've learned and the experience you've gained, your business is only going to get more successful as you continue to apply. And you guys are proof and concept of that, right?
Right. That's it. That's absolutely right.
Love it. I don't know, are people able to ask questions in the chat, or did you guys want to open that up to people to ask questions? I'm not sure how that works exactly.
Yeah. And I can keep up with either one. There's a chat feature. There's a Q&A feature. Anyone that's listening, you want to know anything, you've got us here for a few minutes. We're happy to answer that. I see one question, and then the QA box here comes from Scott. Scott early on asked, how hard is it going to be to get product out of China now that it is effectively closed? So for those, I assume everyone mostly has heard about the coronavirus epidemic that struck China pretty hard. A lot of companies, a lot of warehouses, a lot of manufacturers in China have closed their doors to try to keep people from commingling too much. Actually, it's a funny story. A friend of ours, it's Danny Lee. Friend of ours, Danny Lee, his family's from China. He went and visited his family for Chinese New Year, and he was posting videos of walking through downtown of big cities that it's just completely empty. Everyone's in their house. You typically super crowded, and it's just like a ghost town
to look at.
So luckily, we don't have to deal with this problem at all. If you were a private label seller, for instance, your product probably comes from China, right? But in our case, all of the brands that we work with their domestic headquarters. We work with the actual brand owner itself, their IP rights holder itself, which are U.S. based, or in the case of some of our accounts, Canadian based. And we reach out. So that means their product is stored already in the United States.
Now, at some point, it might affect their supply chain, but it's got a long way to go.
Yeah, and that's a small percent, and it's a small percentage of the brands that we deal with. A lot of the brands that we sell are it's a lot of health products and grocery products, things that are made in the U.S. anyway.
A lot of our products are made in U.S. or in North America.
Yeah, so it's something that hasn't affected us yet at all, and I don't really expect it to affect us. It would only affect the brands that we buy from. If they happen to have components from China, it could then affect us. But for the most part, it has not at all.
Yeah, that's a huge advantage, I think. You hear a lot of private label sellers a little bit scared. They're like, well, when can I get my next shipment in from China? How long is this thing going to go on for? So like you said, with having a lot of the inventory already in the U.S. and domestically, that's I see that as a huge plus. It doesn't interrupt your supply chains.
And it's fast too. That's the thing. Like when we order from a brand, it can be live selling on Amazon in a matter of days. You have to order from China.
It takes. The longest part of that process is shipping it from, wherever they are to the nearest Amazon warehouse, and then Amazon receiving it. So it can literally be 5 days from order to selling.
Yeah, that's a great part about our business model, and another reason we were able to grow so fast. Remember when I said earlier, we went from $1 million in sales to 3.6 to $6 million in sales. A big part of that is because the speed of investment. That's the thing a lot of people don't consider when they talk about growing a business. They think it's all about profit margin or how much profit that you make per product. And that's not the case. You can sell, who makes more money, right? The guy that sells one product at a 50% margin every 30 days, or the person that is able to sell a 10% profit margin product every day and reinvest that money. They sell it.
Yeah.
And then the next day they reinvest their money and they sell it again, and they reinvest their money and they sell it. It's the guy that sells the 10% profit margin. So there's a speed of reinvestment. If you are able to get your money back fast and reinvest it again, you can outpace higher margin or higher profit products with a constant reinvestment. And that's what we do with wholesale. When we order products wholesale, we're able to order, because that's the whole concept. Wholesale, you're buying a lot of products and you're selling a lot of products fast. So you get your money back fast, you reinvest it again, and it just keeps this snowball rolling of constant reinvestment. You think about the stock market or something, right? If you could invest $1,000 in the stock market and then 2 weeks later you got $1,200 back,
and you can do it again,
and you could do it again and again. That's kind of what it's like selling on Amazon. It's insanity, right?
Rinse and repeat. And that's the encouraging, I think, for people who maybe don't have a ton of capital starting out. That snowball can start to grow. If you can keep that money in the business and keep reinvesting it, that snowball starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger until you start looking at some sizable orders. Now you're looking at some real numbers, and before you know it, you potentially have a real business, right?
Yeah. And if you want to be able to enroll, so our program, the Wholesale Formula, just in case anyone doesn't know, it's where once per year, we open up enrollment for a class that we lead, an online class where we teach everything about how our business works, how you can do it step by step and build it and it's available right now for 4 days a year. It's for sale. Today is one of those days that you can actually enroll. It's available right now. And then we're closing enrollment on Thursday for the whole year. That's it. We teach it like a college class, right? So we have a short enrollment period. You can get in, we teach it, and then that's it. The rest of the year, we're working with our students, or we're working on our own Amazon business. We don't necessarily have time to do that all year. So that now, if you're interested in anything that you've heard, you can do that. You can enroll. Duncan, you put the link. You put it in the chat.
Put the link in there. Yep. And, it's bit.ly/wholesale2020. So you can click on that to enroll. And that is one of the unique things with the Wholesale Formula guys, in that they do only open it really once per year. And that's so they can focus on their students, and they take that very seriously, right, guys? I mean, you guys, the results speak for themselves. You're helping people succeed here. And you do that to a limited audience once per year. This is that window of opportunity. Otherwise, someone's going to put their dreams off potentially for another year if they don't get in by Thursday, right?
Right, and we're serious about it, like that, because that's the thing. It's like, this is it. This is the only time people can enroll, and then that's it. And there's also we also have a 30-day, no questions asked, money back guarantee, and it's not conditional.
It's not one of the goofy conditional ones. Like it's not one of the ones where it's like, oh, you watched too much, or you didn't do this, or you didn't scratch your nose 4 times, or whatever. It's literally, you can email us and you can say, hey, Dan, I don't like your bald head. Like, I want a refund, and you got it. I mean, it can be anything. The reason we're able to do that, honestly, is because we're incredibly confident in our product. We realize that it's not for everybody, too. And we want people to really, come in, experience it. If it's something like they can feel that they feel can produce big results and work for them, like stick in there. But if it's not, like, we don't hold that against people. Like, I actually enjoy giving those refunds. And I think that's one of the reasons that we're able to tout so many success stories is, the people who have, with our refund period, as flexible as it is, like the people who decided to stay for the right reason, and they continued building a business, and the people who it wasn't for weren't there. So we don't have, it's not, you don't have a bunch of people that end up in a place they don't want to be in. And that's one of the things that I'm most proud of, honestly, is our refund policy.
Yeah.
Totally.
One of the questions.
You guys.
One of the questions here from Alpha. It's I think it's for you, Duncan. I just signed up for Duncan's course at the beginning of the webinar. Not set up yet. Am I eligible for your course? And
yes, he is. Yeah. So that's something. Anyone who signs up for the wholesale formula. We're a small community, so I'm here to back you up from a Canadian standpoint and help you with any of the Canadian specifics to being successful on Amazon as well. So they've got my support. Actually, for a full year, I'm going to have an exclusive mastermind for people that sign up where I'll be doing some live webinars with you and making sure that you're on track. And, I'm committed to your success here as well. So
yeah, fantastic.
Definitely there for you. And here to answer questions from a Canadian perspective as well.
And we've had plenty of successful students from Canada. Just had a few over here at our offices that came and visited us recently, and I just love Canadian people, man. I do.
One
of our most successful students is a Canadian. Trent Deersmid is originally from the Vancouver area. Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah. I think I've heard the name, actually. He sold a company several years ago. He was a budding entrepreneur, and now he's a big-time Amazon seller and a student of you guys, too, right?
Yeah.
He was actually once featured on, I think it was like the top 100 or top 250 growing companies in Canada.
Yeah, and then
company sold.
Wow. Well, and then he enrolled in our program. And it actually how he met Dan. He has a podcast, and Dan was one of his guests on his podcast, and Dan was just explaining our business model. And he was like, man, I got to start doing this. It's way better than the private label thing I'm doing right now. And
yeah, because he had been doing private label for like 3 or 4 months and just wasn't resonating with him.
So,
and it's the most wild conversation I've ever had. So like I get off the podcast with him, and he was just like, yeah, so like, can I join your course like right now? And I was like, I mean, I've never been asked this. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, no, seriously, I will literally stop doing private label today and start doing wholesale. Like you convinced me, man. And I mean, it was we ultimately let him in, and it was kind of crazy because Trent. I mean, what was his success? It was just like in the first 6 months.
In the first 6 months, he had scaled up to $100,000 in sales a month. Right now, he does somewhere around $3.5 million in sales per year. He just
like a year and a half in or 2 years.
Yeah, just like us, he's automated the business where he's completely like out of it. He doesn't work in the business hardly at all, a few hours a week, and that's it because he scaled it the same way that we did. Because he's a smart guy, he knew what he was doing. And then what the really cool thing about it is, if you go to our website, you can see it. We've got it featured on the front page, thewholesaleformula.com. But there's a magazine, Inc. 500, where like the fastest growing companies in America, because he moved over to across the border into America. And has been living here for a few years. So not only did he have one of the 500 fastest growing companies in Canada, now his Amazon business is one of the 500 fastest growing companies in the United States, and it's the business he
That's
built
incredible.
from taking our program. So we
No
make sure to,
kidding.
so it's really cool because like we can go to a Walmart, or we can go to a grocery store, and there'll be a magazine, and we can open up the magazine and read about one of our students and how they have one of the fastest growing business in America that does millions of dollars in sales.
And on that note, that's something I think so cool with the wholesale model, as opposed to what you talk arbitrage and that. You've got a business. A lot of people might not be thinking this way, but, I went through business school, and I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad just sold his company twice, actually, and now he's retired. I can tell you firsthand that, when you get to that point, having an exit strategy and having a business with systems that you can turn around, those relationships are worth something, right? Those wholesale relationships, and sell to a buyer.
Yeah.
And move on to your next venture or retire, right?
Yeah.
So massive opportunity on the exit strategy there too, potentially long term.
Absolutely. And so speaking of that,
speaking of exit strategies,
exit strategies, that's a cool thing about our business model now is it's a sellable company. Your wholesale business, reverse sourcing wholesale business is an extremely valuable asset. It has the assets. You can sell the whole business, or you can just sell it off the assets. When you get a wholesale account, you become an approved Amazon retailer for a brand. And you have locked in prices of profitability and forecasting the profitability of selling those products. Suddenly you have a sellable asset because it's so hard for other people to acquire, and you figured out how to do it. So for instance, right, one of our students, Emmerich Manello, he's originally from France. When he moved to the United States, he didn't know how to speak English. He learned on the fly, like he learned over time how to do it a little bit. And he enrolled in our program. He was able to land a wholesale account and significantly provide tons of value to that brand. He learned how to provide a ton of value to this brand and built up. So when he started selling the product, it was doing $130,000 in sales per year. Based on how he was able to help that company from knowing nothing about selling on Amazon to what he was able to learn and the skills he learned from us. He took that brand from $130,000 in sales per year to about $1.1 million in sales per year. And he was effectively the exclusive seller for the product. He sold the rights to that wholesale account last year for over $400,000. So,
just for the rights to the wholesale
account.
For
the rights to the wholesale account.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a
candy.
It was a candy product, and a big candy company came in and wanted the rights to that wholesale account and offered him over $400,000 for it. And he said, "Yep, sure."
And then the kicker is that he's still on staff as a consultant, getting paid 20% of the profit
by that candy company. Yeah, they bought it from him and hired him as a consultant for a few hours a week.
That's something I learned when I got into business from doing everything myself to growing the business is the thing you learn that people really value, as you guys, I'm sure, have experienced time and time again, is you value your time, right? So if a company has the capital and they can save themselves the time by buying something turnkey or having someone on board that knows the system, that's valuable. That's worth a lot to somebody, right? So that knowledge that we gain as sellers and as students going through your training, that's really valuable knowledge and demand right now, I would imagine, by a lot of companies. They don't know what they don't know, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a good question here from Scott. Scott asks, if I find a product that will give me a good margin, do I have to take the pictures and write the copy for it? And the answer is yes and no, or yes or no. You can or you can't. You actually can choose if you want how you want this to work. So let's talk about photos, for instance, right?
I've never taken one, but I've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pictures put on Amazon.
So this is the most common thing, right? You'll find an Amazon listing that only has one photo, and so we know that a fully optimized listing should have all the photos that you're able to have. At least 6 or 7 photos you should be displaying, showing what the product looks like out of the packaging, being what we call lifestyle shots. If it's food, what it looks like prepared, and making it look delicious. In a recent webinar we hold, I showed an example of this of a company selling a bag of rice, and they only had one photo, and it's just a photo of the bag that the rice comes in, not what the rice looks like out of the bag, not what the rice looks like cooked in a delicious meal. So it's all these missed opportunities that they could do with the listing to make it seem more appealing to people, so they were more likely to buy it and increase the sales of the listing, right? Because if you're looking at two rice listings on Amazon, you've got one where you can just see the bag and one where you can see what the rice looks like, delicious and prepared. Which one are you more likely to buy? Well, the one where you can actually see what it looks like, right? And that's a deficiency so many Amazon listings have. So in that case, we would want to add more photos to the rice listing, right? Well, the thing is, the photos already exist. The Amazon sellers on the product just never added them because they're lazy or who knows.
I mean, let's look at how a lot of Amazon listings get created. There's a ton that are just created with somebody that bought one in retail arbitrage or two, and they just, they put one picture up, they put the bare minimum components of a listing up, and they just try to sell their 1 or 2 units. Well, that's not cohesive to selling lots and lots of units.
Yeah.
So 90%
a lot of the brands
time,
might not even know their products on Amazon in some cases.
Exactly. They didn't list it themselves. Someone else did. So in this case, 90% of the time, all that you have to do is when you get the wholesale account with the brand, you ask them, hey, can you send me your marketing photos? Because trust me, most brands have spent thousands of dollars on great photos for their product that no one put on Amazon. And so now you have it. Yeah. You have these great marketing photos and you just upload them to the listing and you're done. That's what you do 90% of the time. 5% of the time, the brand just doesn't have other photos and you convince them to go pay for some and then they give it to you. And then the other 5% of the time, and then the last 5% of the time is you might be stuck having to figure out how to do it yourself, or you pay someone to do it a few $100s. And it's definitely very worth it for you to get a wholesale account that's maybe generating hundreds or thousands of dollars in profit each month. So that's photos. That's it right there. Copy, right? Copy's the same way. If you can write it yourself, do it. If the brand likely already has great copy written on their website, you can use that. Or you can hire a professional to do it for a couple $100s. You have options, however you want to go about it. It's that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's so easy. You can do it anyway. You can outsource it. You can automate it. Because a lot of times you can run your reverse sourcing wholesale business completely like a consultant that doesn't have to know or do anything. You can convince brands to give you the wholesale account, and then you know how much profit that you'll be making selling it. And then you can just go hire people to do the work, hire someone to write the copies, hire someone to do the PPC advertising, and you're just earning the profit. It's literally possible to never learn how to do any of it and still succeed. Because Dan doesn't know how to do a lot of it. That's one of the things you guys teach, right? You guys,
if you held a gun to my head, right?
Yeah.
But let's say you held a gun to my head right now, and you said, "All right, if you cannot figure out how to run an ad in the next 5 minutes, I will shoot you."
You'd be dead.
I'd be dead. There's literally no shot that I'm surviving. But and I've still sold $25 million on Amazon.
Right.
And it's like, what do I do? It's the same thing. Like I said, I've updated hundreds of pictures, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. I've never taken a single one. And why is that? It's like, I ask the company, if they don't have it, I'll pay a photographer. I'll literally just pay for it. And, with listing copy, it's like, we're pretty confident in our writing ability, but I outsource that all the time. Like, if I don't have time to write listings, or it's not something I feel strongly about or whatever, I literally will just pay somebody to do it because I'm paying somebody. And it's kind of cool too. Like, we actually work with a lot of the brands to get them to cover the cost of this. Like, for ads, as an example, I've not paid for an ad. I've not paid for an ad out of my pocket in a long time. And the reason why is we talk to our brands about it. We talk to them about, how valuable it is to bring in new customers, and they get it. They get things like that. They get paying for copy because they're used to it. They're used to, paying designers to design their website or write copy for them. So whenever you can learn to explain it in a manner where you're like, all right, this is how we can help you, and this is who we suggest use it. Whenever I talk to a brand, I don't tell them that I am the only person that can fix everything on Amazon. I have no, I tell them we will get it done. Like, we will get it done. We will find the best possible solutions for it. And whenever we do that, I'll propose it. And I'm not afraid. I'm not scared to be like, hey guys, this is something I feel like can make a massive difference with you. We've used them in the past, and oftentimes the brand will just pay for it. And then you don't have to do anything other than upload the copy or pictures or whatever it is.
Because they don't care about who does the work. They just want the results. And if you can produce those results and you deliver what you've promised, that's the key, isn't it? That's the whole concept.
Yeah. Got another good question here. It comes from Jason. Jason asks, does the course go into details on learning the skills that cover the 27 value props that you propose to clients to help improve their brands? Or do we need to figure those skills out on our own? And so we do cover each one of them, and we cover them in enough detail that you'll be set. But that's the thing.
I mean, it's like you can do it at basically the basic level. It's not a course dedicated to PPC. Like you could literally make an entire, 6-module course on PPC, but it's enough to get you started. And then once you're able to get started, you should do what we do. Like our goal isn't to make you, to put you in the position to be an employee in your business forever. You should learn to outsource, and that's one of the things we do with PPC. We use, we'll get it started. We'll create a basic campaign to be able to show the brand results with, right? Once those results are in and we're able, and they want to start scaling it, what do? We go use a software, or we pay somebody else to manage it. And that's because I outsource. I have a 2-man team that runs a multiple $1 million operation. And it's because we outsource as much as possible to make sure we're able to stay lean and make sure, I would rather, in terms of something like, let's say copy as an example. Like if I'm not a great copywriter, do I want to be writing copy for somebody? Like, not really. I would rather just pay somebody and get great copy so it delivers the results that I promised. And that's the thing is, I whenever we work, and this is something we go over in the TWF community, is like, these are suggested vendors. And it's not suggested because, it's suggested because we legitimately use them. Like, this is who we use for our pictures. This is who we use for copy.
Yeah, because ultimately, we would, just to break it down, we teach you how to do it yourself. But the more importantly, our focus in the program is to teach you how to automate, delegate, and outsource that stuff. And we give you all the resources and the ability to do that as well. Because, Jeff Bezos, super billionaire, richest man alive, do we think that he knows how to do everything in his business?
Well, no shot.
No, of course not.
He probably doesn't even know all the wings of his business. Like that,
And that's what we try to help you become, is that level of entrepreneur, so that you can have a real business, grow a real large business, and have that right kind of mindset of knowing, like, to have a big business, I've got to be able to scale, to automate, to outsource, so that I can focus all my time not on working within the business, but growing the business. When you're working on just growing a business, that's how you really have something successful and tangible. So that's, and then I do want to just, like, if we use this term, it's a mistake. But our program is not a course. The Wholesale Formula is not a course. There's a lot of courses out there. It's not a course. It's a program. It's a class. It is a community. It is something much different than anything out there that would be called a course. It's a program that really people work with you. We are invested in your success. You have a community of. Remember, we said that in 2017, our community had done over $500 million. Well, you get to be part of that community. We have a Facebook group that's filled with all those people, all these multi-million-dollar sellers. Many of our students have grown businesses larger than ours. They took what we taught, and they figured out how to make a bigger business than us. And they're in that community too, sharing and
that's
working with
something
each other.
We're super proud of, actually.
Supporting and help each other.
Totally.
We do a live event every year that's free for our students to come to, where they share network, and we do presentations, and every one of our speakers is a successful student, is $1 million and multi-million-dollar seller, because we have so many of them.
That's huge.
We can run a full live event. We can run a full live event dedicated to our business model that's only million and multi-million-dollar students of ours to speak and share some of their strategies or tactics that have been working for them. I mean, that's what we have. We have easily the most successful Amazon training program out there. You don't find anybody that has as many success stories as us, and that's not even me trying to sell it. That's just me telling the truth.
Totally.
Try it. Compare us to anybody. I guarantee you'll come to the same conclusion.
And that's what I think is such a huge value, like you said, because, I mean, if each of those people were to charge for their hourly rate for their time, what would that be worth, right? And you have access to that as part of that community. So that's a huge, huge plus, So their people are self-paced, training on their own, but they've got the support of that community behind them, right? So they're not left on their own. They're not left to their own devices, which I think is massive.
Yeah.
Yep.
Scott asks, what kind of margin are you looking for to cover costs to get a product to be profitable?
Now, one of the things that we always try to tell people is, in business, do not create rules that cost you money. Don't create a rule. Create a guideline, right? And what we look for is our target product is about a 30% ROI, but I'll go under it. Like if you tell me, hey, you can carry this product that has a 25% ROI and you'll make $4,000 a month. Like if I have the capital to do it, I'm doing it every time. And but it is we try to target products with a 30% ROI, but be really flexible and just look at the math, and it will dictate what you should and shouldn't buy based on your capital.
Right on.
Yep, our profit margin. What was the last report? We're somewhere around 18% right now. About 18% profit margin, which some people may think, oh, that seems so low. And it's like, we do millions of dollars in sales, so you can do the math. Every year, millions of dollars in sales and 18% profit margin, and we have 2 employees.
And you guys are outsourced pretty much 100%. So your own side of the business is minimal. So it's pretty darn good.
So what's it enabled us to do? It's enabled us to have an investment real estate company. We bought 5 houses last year.
At the tail end of last year too.
Yeah, we bought 5 houses
Wow.
cash. Bought 5 houses cash, and then refinanced them afterwards. So we were able to buy cash, able to get them really easy. So we have an investment real estate company. We have a web services company that we have, obviously the wholesale formula that we do once a year. We have been able to diversify and do so many other different things with the success that the Amazon business enabled for us. And we started with nothing, man. You remember, Dan had $4,000 in his bank account. You remember.
Right. But it wasn't just, it's not just the money that it afforded us, it's the time, right? And it's like, the money's been great. And honestly, it's given us some opportunities, but it wasn't the money alone that gave us, like, you can make great money and just not have the time to start buying houses or add on this project or doing these things. But, in our day-to-day operations, me and Dylan don't have a role. It's not like we don't work. I'm not trying to say we don't work. It's like, we go to our meeting, we look at our KPIs and metrics and make sure everything's on point. We talk to our employees about, what's your game plan for this week? How are you going to, and help solve the problems in that hour. And if it goes beyond that, like we're there for them. But our employees are top notch, and it's because everything in our business operates from a process or system. So they're, as far as like shared decisions they make, it's fairly binary. It's right, wrong. And that's what's allowed us the time. It's like during any given day, I mean, I can go do anything I want because my job doesn't chain me to a desk. My job doesn't dictate where I can and can't be.
Yeah. And it's helped. Awesome. We have a personal assistant. So the personal assistant picked up Dan's kids from school and took them to gymnastics and,
that's awesome.
That's so I could be here.
Think about that, adding that to your life. I need to send her on a grocery run or go get some baby formula. I got a baby at home. Like, just when you get to that point, like it's weird how much our lives have changed and how Amazon has enabled that for us over the last few years. It's been wild.
Scott
awesome.
Says, do we need software like Jungle Scout or Helium 10 to sell on Amazon and take your course? We suggest the Jungle Scout Chrome extension. I mean, it's like we're not a big like trying to sell a whole bunch of softwares and stuff like that. Our focus is up front, I will tell you, do not get a software to start a process in your business. Like, don't do it. Make sure that the process that a software solves an existing problem before you get it. Now, the only one where we suggest that is not the case is the Jungle Scout Chrome extension, because it'll speed you up really fast in getting leads and sourcing.
Yep, it's pretty much absolutely necessary for you to be able to scout and mimic what we do in our own business. Mm-hmm.
And then Alpha,
that was one of the first tools I got.
Yeah, it's just such a great tool, and it's not very costly. I think it costs maybe $150 or $200 a year now.
It's worth it. I've used it every single day since I got it. So
yeah.
Right. Alpha Berry says, "How do you select products?" This is actually covered if you go touch on the workshop, like we cover that really in depth. But the short answer is, we have a set of criteria that kind of determine if a product is an opportunity or not. And one of those criteria is that Amazon doesn't sell the product. And I kind of discussed it here. It's like, it's really hard to make changes. And then another one is that there are more than 3 sellers, and that's counterintuitive, but it's because we don't like to target private label products that were created for the whole sole intention of being the retailer. But and it's just, it's those kind of things. We have 4 things that we're considering before we qualify a lead. And then that's where the rubber meets the road. We start contacting them and see how it really shakes out.